Hey, what's up guys? My name is Cameron Gallagher and today we're going behind the scenes of a music video. So, let's get into it. So I've done all of Vince Palmeri's music videos in the past, and he approached me this time with an interesting idea to kind of go for a 70s or 80s style, like disco, sort of 80s, sort of a late 70s, 80s vibe going on, and do it on a green screen. Now, usually I'm not a big fan of the green screen because a lot of times it just feels cheesy, but obviously kind of embracing that cheese for the 70s, 80s sort of feel, I think was just a good decision. So he'd kind of come to me and said, how can we do this? How can we go about it? So I wanted to talk to you guys about how we made this music video possible and sort of the things that we did to make it happen. So one of the first things we do is that we're gonna do a lot of performance stuff and a lot of different scenarios on the green screen, and then also do some shots out by the pool, and then this kind of like disco tinsel backdrop kind of thing we'll talk about in a minute. So the first big challenge was actually setting up the green screen and shooting all of the green screen stuff first. Now, the one thing about a green screen you have to remember is perspective doesn't change, because with a green screen, all you're doing is removing the background and then anything else can move around that. So the great part was that all we had to do was actually set up the green screen once, and then from beyond that, we were just shooting the different perspectives and just shifting everything in the space. So for instance, when at the dinner scene, we shot the wide shot and then we shot each of their close-ups, obviously without moving the camera, just changing the background and just changing the perspective to make sure that we weren't breaking the 180-degree rule. So I actually ordered a giant impact green screen. This thing was a really large green screen. We just used 2 C-stands on either side to set it up, sandbagged it, and then we also did use some green chroma tape so that way we could tape off stuff. So if later on we did want to add camera movement, or if we wanted to move the camera at all, we had tracking points to actually use. So we actually used a ton of Genaray Lights. I'm going to link down in the description below to actually light the backdrop. These things were awesome as they were just big, giant, soft sources. And the biggest thing about a green screen is evenly lighting your green screen as well as creating a massive separation from your subject and the green screen itself to get a better key later on, which we'll talk about later. So we actually shot the thing in Vince's basement, and we used, again, a bunch of Impact and Matthew C-stands to set up all of our lights as well as the backdrop itself, tape it to the floor. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure to do is actually to securely tape that to the floor so that nothing were to move, so they couldn't slip and the actors wouldn't slip and fall or anything like that. So we shot the entire thing on the URSA Mini Pro G2, and one of the newest things that we were trying out today was we were actually using the Nucleus M. We were actually using the Hollyland 400S video wireless system to transmit and then also pull focus from that using the new Nucleus M system. Now, the Nucleus M system isn't new, but it's new to us. So we actually have Zach operate the camera, and I could wirelessly be pulling focus as well as directing.
Cut, perfect.
And this was really awesome because we could be away from the camera if we had to be, but still be able to see our video, see what was going on, and actually pull focus. Now, we're gonna do some videos later on about these systems themselves, but I was pretty impressed overall. I will say the video wasn't perfectly sharp. We'll talk more about that in the actual Hollyland review, but the video wasn't as sharp as I would have hoped to pull focus with, but in general, it still was a great and easy way to have that director's monitor, pull focus, and be able to just, again, get away from the camera and have that set up and not worry about it. So we pretty much just went through all the shots and just went through everything that we had on the green screen to shoot and just did it. It was pretty simple, it was pretty straightforward. Again, nothing really changed, which was awesome. The only thing we did have to change was actually the height of the camera based on the perspective of the scene, but that was really easy. We just moved the tripod up and down based on that, and pretty much good to go.
Because it's 2 claps, you go.
Okay, can you do it again?
Feels a little more like what he's saying with the hand claps.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was gonna say, you want this one.
So I think we can try that.
1B, take 1?
Yeah. Pretty much keep your body locked in, like your feet locked in, and just do
You guys
all
need a
face,
bubble
all hair.
Should we put a
all stuff
sandbag
like
on our
that. We will
toes?
do the body. We're gonna do 60 frames. It's like, I was doing these. You got a conversation, and then kind of be like over his shoulder, and then he's gonna start singing. And then you just hang around. Really throw it.
I want to
Like throw that next in a
You
circle.
can't see it completely.
Okay, then I want to be like enough to the side.
And reach your hands out like this. But tilt your hands like towards the camera.
Well, this you can crop.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Go.
So next up was actually this like tinsel backdrop scene. Now Vince had gotten a ton of tinsel backdrop, and he'd also gotten some cool like 70s clothes and some stuff like that. So he put those on, and what we did was we just actually put this tinsel backdrop layered across those C-stands, again hanging from the back. I actually shot one of the Genaray lights into the actual disco ball to create some of that disco movement, and although the disco ball we couldn't get moving, it still was enough to sort of spray that around. But one of the big and tricky things that we did is actually what you can probably see going on here, and we actually used what's called a star filter. Now I first saw this, so this was kind of something that you saw in a lot of 70s videos, and I don't know why it was, if they were actually using the star filter or if it was a issue with the lenses, I don't really know. I actually saw this in the Bruno Mars video and I thought this was really interesting. So I went on B&H and I found the 8-star version, which I'm using right now. And basically anytime a light is shined directly into it, so the actual source of the light is in frame, you get this sort of cool star effect. And the great thing is by showing the light in the actual video with the backlight, as well as sort of the direct reflections coming off the tinsel, we got this cool star effect. And again, it added this kind of like haze to the whole scene, which I just think sold that 70s effect even that much more. And all we did for that was actually just use the 300D with a ton of grid and sort of wrapping to just key them. And then again, we just had one backlight hitting the disco ball. So all of that stuff was actually super straightforward and easy. Now for the pool shots, we pretty much just ran handheld. I was using the Easy Rig, and we pretty much shot everything at 120 frames per second, but obviously especially the pool shots of her emerging from the pool. We shot those at 120 frames per second. And then what I did is that later on I actually added a digital zoom just to kind of help get more of an interesting vibe. Now to add some layered texture, what we actually did was sprayed the hose in front of her, so that way while she was getting out of the pool and while she was actually getting misted by it, it just added that much more visual contrast and added some texture, even though it wasn't actually hitting her in the first portion. And basically with that, we had this awesome, cool looking video. Now, a couple of tools that I used later on to do the opening titles, I actually used the Saber free plugin from Video Copilot. Now this thing was awesome for creating a neon sign look. And of course you could dial in a bunch of different looks, but the neon sign worked great for the titles, and it just kind of helped push that 70s, 80s vibe even that much more. And one of the things that I used to actually key was Primac Keyer, which is in that new Red Giant sort of like complete package they have, where you pay $80 a month and you can get all the unlimited tools they have. So using Primac Keyer was really nice because it did pull a very, very clean key. It's not perfect, but of course we're not, running with $1 million budget or something like that. So I was really happy with the key overall and just in general how the post-production workflow worked. Now, one of the tips that I have is that if you're shooting a music video on a green screen, what we actually did was edit the music video first before actually keying out any of the shots. Reason being was, instead of editing and keying out 12 different shots for the entire length of the song, most likely you're only gonna need maybe a minute or 2.5 minutes of the actual song green screen portion, because we had other stuff that wasn't. So once we actually edited the video, then I took those shots and then actually keyed those shots out. Again, just using that much less time, that much less computer power. So that's a tip if you're doing a lot of green screen stuff. Edit it first and then key it out. Now granted, if you have to go back, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but at least that way you're just saving that much more time. So anyway guys, this is a super fun music video. I had a blast doing everything. Again, all of the gear that I talked about is in the links below, and if you use those affiliate links, it kind of helps give us a kickback here on the channel. Also be sure to follow us on Instagram as well as Vince Palmeri on Instagram. Again, check those out down below. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later.
Get a Snapchat of me and send it to everyone.